In 1994, the same year the Highlands Forum was founded, Sergey Brin and Larry Page, then two young PhD students at Stanford University, made their breakthrough on the first automated web crawling and page ranking application. Brin and Page had performed their work with funding from the Digital Library Initiative, DLI, a multi-agency program of the National Science Foundation, NSF, NASA, and DARPA. While Page's funding was provided through the NSF, Brin was funded through a grant to Stanford management by Brin's supervisor, Professor Jeffrey D. Ullman, who was in 1996 part of a joint funding project of DARPA's Intelligent Integration of Information program. Throughout the development of the search engine, Brin reported regularly to Dr. Bhavani Tharasingham and Dr. Rick Steinheiser, both representatives of a sensitive US intelligence community research program on information security and data mining. Steinheiser represented the CIA's Office of Research and Development. Tharasingham was Chief Scientist for Data and Information Management for MITRE Corporation, a leading US defense contractor, where she managed the Massive Digital Data Systems Initiative, a project sponsored by the NSA, CIA, and the Director of Central Intelligence to foster innovative research in information technology. According to Tharasingham, in addition to the private sector, Brin's seed funding was provided in part by a program called Massive Digital Data Systems, MDDS, that she was administrating when she was at the MITRE, along with Steinheiser. The primary sponsors of MDDS was three agencies: the NSA, the CIA's Office of Research and Development, and the Intelligence Community's Community Management Staff, which operates under the Director of Central Intelligence. Robert Steele, former senior CIA officer and a founding civilian deputy director of the Marine Corps intelligence activity, said that Steinheiser, who was an old colleague of his, was the CIA's main liaison at Google and had arranged its early funding when it was founded in 1998. In the acknowledgement of her book, Web Data Mining and Applications in Business Intelligence and Counterterrorism, Tharasingham writes that she and, quote, Dr. Rick Steinheiser of the CIA began discussions with DARPA on applying data mining for counterterrorism, end quote, an idea that resulted directly from the MDDS program, which partly funded Google. In September 1998, Andreas Bechtolsheim and David Cherrington, both connected to DARPA, invested $100,000 each in Google. Bechtolsheim's pioneering DARPA-funded research at Stanford was the foundation of Bechtolsheim's establishment of Sun Microsystems, which he co-founded with William Joy. In 1996, Bechtolsheim left Sun Microsystems to co-found Granite Systems with Cherrington, whose research at Stanford had received the support of the DARPA for over 20 years. Cisco and Granite executives are intimately connected to the Pentagon. Lawrence Zurif, a managing partner of Granite, was a participant of the Highlands Forums. Zurif had previously been an SIIC contractor from 1993 to 1994, working with the Pentagon on national security issues, specifically for Marshall's Office of Net Assessment. During his time at SAIC, Zurif wrote a paper titled, quote, Understanding Information War, delivered at a SAIC-sponsored US Army Roundtable on the Revolution in Military Affairs. After Google's incorporation, the company received $25 million in equity funding in 1999, led by Sequoia Capital and Kleiner Perkins Caulfield and Byers. According to Homeland Security Today, quote, a number of Sequoia bankrolled startups have contracted with the Department of Defense, especially after 9/11, when Sequoia's Mark Cavan met with Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld to discuss the application of emerging technologies to war fighting and intelligence collection, end quote. Similarly, Kleiner Perkins had developed a, quote, close relationship with In-Q-Tel, the CIA's venture capital arm, named in reference to Q, of course, the fictional inventor who supplies technology to James Bond. The idea was to essentially replace the functions once performed by the ORD, by mobilizing the private sector to develop information technology solutions for the entire intelligence community. In addition to the CIA, In-Q-Tel has also been backed by the FBI, NGA, and Defense Intelligence Agency, among other agencies. Gilman Louis is a former CEO of In-Q-Tel, was a participant of the Highlands Forums, as was fellow boardman Dr. Anita Jones, a CFR member and MITRE trustee, who served as director of DARPA and head of research and engineering at the Pentagon. In-Q-Tel has been investing in companies engaged in social media mining and surveillance. Data miner streams data from Twitter in search of trends for law enforcement agencies and hedge funds. Geofeedia collects social media messages in order to follow activists for police departments and corporations. Pathar is hired by the FBI to mine social media in order to determine networks and signs of radicalization. NetBase scans billions of sources online, and Recorded Future monitors the world's online traffic to predict future events. So this is kind of like the metaphorical all-seeing eye, in a way, this corporation of the web. You know, it's the thing that is funding all of these future technologies, or at least creating startup companies for them with the monetary interest and influence, and, quote, security, you know, which is like going above and beyond on surveillance. But also, you could say, is the driving force that, with so much investment power, at times overthrows the protection of personal security and privacy when it comes to situations on the internet for the sake of surveillance and all of this. So it is definitely an interesting corporation to check out and to dig a bit more into.
Sei sotto un cielo sbagliato.